Hey guys, welcome back to the preview show where we like to give you the info leading up to an upcoming Elite Series or major event on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. I'm joined today with Hunter Thomas and Trevor Staub. Boys, how are we feeling for this weekend?
Excited. I could be in the minority, probably just because we're East Coast. I like that the MPO's teeing off at like 7:30, 8:30 in the morning.
I don't hate it. Yeah, I like that. Like you can get all of your disc golf spectating in, and then you've got like your day.
It is gonna be tough. I wake up at 5.
Yeah.
The FPO will be like 9 holes in at that point, I think.
Yeah.
So
The broadcast starts at 1:30. For European Open, the broadcast I saw starts at 1:30 a.m. I don't know how.
That's fine. I probably won't be able to watch FPO.
No,
you know what?
I think last FPO tee time is like 4:40 a.m. or something. So I think you're right. I think you will. I think for this event you'll be able to catch it. Maybe.
Heck yeah.
Clarification, you're saying that we will be able to watch it in the morning, MPO in the morning, but they're over there, they're teeing off still later.
Yeah, they're teeing off like
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
it's
so they're in like
6 hours ahead of us.
Europe or something?
Norway.
Something like that. Yeah, Norway. Yeah. Cool place. All right, so this week we have the PCS Open by Innova. And this event last year was actually a silver series and has now been upgraded to an elite series. So congratulations, PCS Open. Last year they played 2 courses in Norway. This year they're only going to do one. It's called Overås Disc Golf Course. Overås, I think that's the way you say it.
I'm not the right person.
I'm not Norwegian, so
I've butchered so many names.
But we're going to go ahead and get into some of the course changes for this year. So on hole 1, they actually added a drop zone. Originally, we would see players go OB left or OB right, and then they would take it from their OB like a regular round. Now they've added a drop zone that's actually a lot closer to the tee box of hole 1. So it's going to be a lot more difficult for players if there's more wind involved to get up and down for a par. So that should be interesting to watch. A couple of the holes, I think it's like 2, 3, 7, and a couple of them have just been like shortened or lengthened by like a meter or so. And then we have hole 11 was completely revamped. It used to be a short 289-foot wooded shot, and now it's reading as a 364 island hole that I assume wants the players to do an Anheuser-like turnover. But it is a long forehand, but some of our players will be playing that. We'll just have to see how that plays out. Hole 12 has also been redone. It was originally another island hole that you would kind of just lay it out there and hope you're near the basket. I think it was reading as like one of the easiest holes on the course last year, but they've actually lengthened it to 696 feet from 364. Like a wooded tunnel shot at the beginning. So you're like laying up to where the old tee box was, then going to the hole. So it's going to be very interesting to watch these players play it. And it was a par 3. Now it's a par 4 for men, 5 for the women. So that should be interesting to watch. And then the last change that I noticed was hole 15's tee box was brought in over 100 feet. Okay, so it was shortened 100 feet to make it a par 4, and it's 146, or it's 846 feet, and it was like pushing 970, I think, last year. So that's a monster hole, but I'm really excited to see how these changes play out.
Yeah. The course, like you said, there's a few changes, nothing crazy though. It looks pretty similar to last year. I think this course is going to be interesting to watch because it's definitely, there's a good bit of par 3s in this course, and there's enough OB out there, especially around greens, and they also throw in some water hazards. So like OB is certainly a factor, but a lot of the par 3s are pretty straightforward, like typical wood tunnel type par 3s. Yeah. There's a good bit of them to where if you're hitting the gaps, this course could score really well. If you remember last year, it was super windy and cold, in particular that last round. So that made the course play very much like survivally. But I think in good conditions, this course would score pretty well just because of how many of those par 3s there is, and they're not super long either. But I think there's a nice amount of OB on this course to where we're going to see separation. You mentioned hole 1, that, without the wind, even that's not an easy hole. It's a pretty far forehand for a lot of players. And with the drop zone being up near the tee, that right off the bat, that is a nervy shot to throw for your first one.
I think ours before it last year final round.
Yeah. And you know, you have that, if that wind kicks up, that course becomes very difficult. It's a really cool course. They have the famous Gates of Valhalla hole, which is a double Mando, so that's exciting.
Yeah, it's a triple.
And
it's like
yeah.
throwing from like this giant platform.
Yeah, it is one of the most. Some of the most personality you'll see a course have all year, to where like you can look at it and you see it, and you see that a lot of times with European disc golf, like just the terrain and the environments they play in, they immediately look different. They have really cool terrain for disc golf. This course is almost on a hillside for a lot of it. You have like really cool smaller trees and like long grass and stones that they place in certain areas. But then just the things that they add on some of the built-in tees and decor, they really do a really good job of like giving the course an identity. And
I like me a tractor.
Tractor on hole 18. So it's exciting. It's very fun to watch. It's the kind of disc golf coverage that like people would go back to because the course just looks awesome.
Yeah. One thing with the course, somewhat with the course, I was tagged with on Twitter from Newt Holland, I believe is how you pronounce his name. I think we've seen him before on tour. Newt. I think there's a van in the middle normally. Newt Van Halen. That sounds normal to me. But Newt Holland, he tagged me, and then he linked to this post from Oyvind Yarnes, which again I recognize that name from somewhere, but both of them are not playing this weekend. And I just want to read his post on Instagram. He said, "Yes, I'm not playing this week. It was supposed to be a quiet protest from my side, but after getting so many questions, I feel like I should give an explanation. As many of you know, I've been part of the local organizing committee." And then he puts, I'm not going to try to pronounce the name, behind the Sula Open. In 2022, we joined forces with the crew at Over Us. Again, I think we're butchering that name, but the course for the first Pro Tour event outside of the U.S. This event was a huge success, and both we and the Pro Tour wanted to repeat in 2023. After a meeting in autumn of 2022, it was made clear for us that the crew at Over Us did not want to cooperate with us anymore, even though this is what the Pro Tour wanted. My local club was the first disc golf club to be established in our part of Norway. Since we've always been the most experienced club in our area, we have always been striving towards helping up-and-coming clubs, courses, and tournaments. This is especially true for the club at Overus. The selfish way the crew at Overus chose to end the cooperation with us was not nice and a huge step backwards for disc golf in our local area. The feeling I'm left with is that the project I cherish and have worked to improve for over 10 years has been taken away from me. So I don't really know how that all
where does that
relate or plays in.
Yeah, I was going to say, does that
obviously the Pro Tour moved forward and it's an elite event. It's bigger this year.
The only thing I can think of is they did play 2 courses last year. They're only playing this one this year.
It seems like this course, he's kept saying, I don't know if this course is named after a local city and it's like the club there, or if this course's club is.
Well, also I'm curious because like they didn't really change the course either. So maybe it's like they wanted changes and then they didn't.
They might have just wanted it might have just been a control play, as it gets bigger. They want. I don't know. I found it interesting.
There's unrest.
This is obviously only one side of the story, but it's never good when like a local community split. Yeah. But the Pro Tour is obviously still coming there. It's still going to be an Elite Series event. All the players, all the big name Pro Tour players are still there. So I was tagged on it on Twitter, and obviously someone was trying to get their message out there, and I was like, hey, you know what? I'll read it. I don't really know too much about what's going on, but. There you go.
I like draw a comparison, or another example would be like if Peaks and Creeks was in charge of like building up like their own disc golf community, and that's like a local disc golf community in Lynchburg. If they were helping out with this course, building it up, and then there was like a power struggle, like if the Pro Tour showed up and said, "Hey, Falling Creek, we're gonna take over," and they like worked a little bit with the club, and then ended up like doing their own thing.
Well, it doesn't sound like it's the Pro Tour doing their own. It's
but
almost
it's like it's the people at the people in my example, Falling Creek.
Who so it would essentially be like if Bedford Disc Golf and Peaks and Creeks were working together on a collaborative event, and then Bedford Disc Golf was like, "Deuces, we're not going to need your help anymore."
Gosh,
that's kind of what it sounds like. Local course drama. You don't. If I would have said nothing, you would have never known. Nope. Most likely this weekend's going to go off probably without a hitch. But typically, if stuff like that happens and it's true, a lot of times it can be to the detriment of the event in the long run. When a Pro Tour is involved, it's usually not, because you have so many people coming in to play the Pro Tour. Right. But like we've had local events where a golf course about an hour and a half away got into a fight with the local club, pulled the baskets, and a tournament that was running and was growing, getting a lot of steam, just ended up not happening anymore. It's just gone. And so like that sucked because it was one of my favorite tournaments to play. And I was even asked to run it.
What was it called?
How I found out. It was, I forget, it was at the Arsenal's the course.
Okay.
That was the battle.
The airstrikes at the Arsenal or something like that. I don't know the name.
Sounds sick.
But like I played it several years in a row, and then the tournament director I like got to know pretty well, and then I was reached out from the course asking to run the event, and I'm like, why isn't he running the event anymore? So I reached out to the tournament director, found out about this whole falling out and everything, and that's what the course. So all that to say, like, the only potential harm it could happen to the Pro Tour side is possibly like the longevity of like local community support, because that's really important for volunteers, getting the course set up, stuff like that.
Course maintenance.
So that's the only thing that could have repercussions. But I don't know. I saw someone tag me in it. I thought it was an interesting story.
Anytime you have a big event come to a disc golf community, like all of the individual clubs and communities want to be involved really bad, and that's where a lot of times things like this happen.
Yeah.
Kind of sad to see. But anyways, this weekend, it looks like it's going to be a little rainy. There's some chances of like scattered showers.
What temperature are we looking at? Do we know?
I think we were looking at like 65 to like 70.
I saw Brody put a trick shot up and he was in long sleeves.
Yeah,
and it
cooler.
looked kind of chilly. And I was very jealous.
Because last year they were bundled. Like when it got windy last year. So I think
was
like,
I think it's just the time of the year in Norway where like it's fine. It's like definitely cooler there right now. But if like a cold front came in, it would get like cold.
Yeah, chilly. See Beanie Greg out there. So, all right, all good on that. We're going to go ahead and talk about our MPO headlines. First and foremost, actually, before I even get into MPO, you got to feel for the last year's winners, Greg and Anakin Steen. I think that's how you pronounce it.
I actually do think you say Anakin.
Okay, well, that is so dope. Yeah. Anyways, if they want to repeat, they're going to have to play out of their minds, because obviously the field has got a lot more difficult. So on our MPO side, the tour is kind of reuniting with Paul McBeth, their favorite face of the Pro Tour. And so in his 3 wins he's had over there, I think he's had 3, and then he's had 3 like
losses.
5. Yeah, he's had like a 5, a 6, and then at the Estonian Open he got like 32nd.
Yeah,
but that was. Yeah.
But yes.
So that was pretty bad. Pretty bad. Do we think that Paul being over there, being acclimated to this weather, the terrain, those winds, do you think he is prepared enough to take on the best in the world?
I don't think it has anything to do with how long he's been in Europe and acclimated. I think it's just like what Paul shows up. Because if the best version of Paul shows up, yeah, he's still one of the best players in the world. But this year he's just not, and he's gotten kind of progressively too here. He's just not consistently at that level. So I don't think with what we've seen of his performance in Europe, I think if he came in with a full head of steam, like he just rattled off 6 wins and they were dominant and Paul's just feeling on top of the world, yeah, I would think he's one of the favorites coming into this. With what we've seen, it seemed like kind of more of the same, where there's some weeks he was playing solid, some weeks he wasn't playing so hot. And so I think it just kind of depends on what Paul shows up. But I don't think he's more prepared than anyone else going into this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's still a lot of questions with Paul. I think that, I think that those wins will have done something to settle him down a little bit, to where it's like when you're a really good player and you're going through a slump, just sometimes like getting back on top of the podium, even if the competition isn't as tight, it still means something to be like, okay, I can still win. I do think that, watching him over there are still parts of his game that he is struggling with. I think there are other parts of his game, such as his putt, that he was able to find some success with that he was struggling with before he went over. The question really is, how much pressure is he going to feel? Because I think a lot of people are, first time seeing him in a while, and him being like in Europe. I know that's not really a narrative, but I guess it can't hurt that he's been over there and he's acclimated. So, I think a lot of people are going to be pointed at him. So it's a matter of how much pressure is he going to feel, knowing that, like, for Paul's narrative this season, it would really help to at least get one of these 2 in Europe.
Yeah.
Obviously the major would be probably the preferred of the 2, but either would be very helpful. So, I think that's the big question. I would really expect to see a better version of Paul than we saw when he went to Europe. Like I said, I think grabbing a trio of wins there will settle him down a little bit and, help. But yeah, I'm definitely not fully convinced that, like, it's not like, Paul is back. It's not that time at this point. But, that can change really quick. All it takes is one convincing win, and it's like, okay.
I'm not my eyes aren't glued on Paul for this tournament. He could win. He could come in 50th. I think he, in my opinion, is one of the favorites for European Open, just because his knowledge and history at that course, he always plays it solid. So I believe that's next week. I think he has a very solid chance there. Win probability going into it, he's probably the favorite in my opinion. I don't know if Udis will give that to him, but I would consider Paul the favorite to win European Open.
I mean,
just because Paul in a major,
with a lefty
Paul in a
backhand.
major at a course he's super familiar with. Those both point to even stuff that he's like a little iffy with all season. He finds a way just to kind of get that out of his system when a major time rolls around. That narrative can quickly disappear if he just bonks at the next 3 majors, but we'll see.
And I know a lot of people will diminish a lot of the Paul narratives have diminished as far as like, well, Paul will always do this. Like for instance, well, if Paul's in it, he's always going to push really hard. Like we kind of maybe that narrative doesn't exist as much anymore. Or Paul always had a major, he struggled at Champions Cup, but at Worlds and European Open, we have, no matter what's going on that season, we have yet to see him struggle at either of those 2 events in recent history and Worlds since 2012. So there's still plenty of reason to believe that at European Open and at Worlds, events that he has spoken and said that he really focuses hard on those events, even from the beginning of the year, it certainly he should be competitive. I think this course would set up for Paul at his best because I see a lot of tunnel par 3s, a lot of shot shapes that kind of make sense for his game as well. The only thing is that he's struggled a little bit off the tee as of late. So I don't know if it's going to set up quite the same way. I really think he'll be competitive in this event. This is not a full field in any way, in any case. So I don't think that, it would be crazy to see him take like as something outside of the top 30. I think that would be insane.
If you finish outside top 20, I'll be pretty shocked.
Yeah, I expect something decent, but I don't know if it's going to be. I don't know if he's going to be pushing for the win or not.
Okay. Do we think that it's early on in his career? We've seen him dominate season at beginning of season, at the end of the season. Like he's just through and through. He's going to kill. Do you think he's at a point in his career where he's not really worried? If he doesn't view an event as being giving him those titles that would get him up in a conversation with Ken Climo for the GOAT, do you think it's a mindset rather than him just not being able to execute properly that's holding him back from like winning a bunch?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, Paul is only 33 years old, just turned 33. Age is realistically not a factor. And we obviously know, just look to Worlds last year, that he can still beat everybody. He has won a few majors in the last few years. He can still beat everybody. So I think that what it comes down to is, how much is he still practicing? I think that comes with time in disc golf careers where like you've won everything, you get later in your career, you get busy. How much are you still practicing in this game? And then also the mental thing, the field's getting stronger. I'm having trouble staying on top. That can get in your head a little bit. So I don't know. I know that he can still win on any given day, but I think that, you get later in your career. And like you said, it's not unrealistic to think that you start putting a little more effort into the major titles, because at this point, player of the years, I guess, are things that you can go after by winning just a lot of regular season events. But if you're Paul McBeth and you've kind of established your legacy, then the major titles are what he wants the most. It's like getting towards the end of your NBA career and kind of topping teams to try and win a ring. Like you're trying that the Climo major record.
He's one away from, I believe.
That's what he wants the most right now. I think that's easy to say.
I think that part of Paul's narrative that is being somewhat overlooked, mainly by us a lot of times too, is the field's getting harder. Sure, Paul's getting older. I don't think that factors in too much.
No.
But one of the big things is I think the Pro Tour is going away from courses that typically play to Paul's strength. The Tour is getting more open. The Tour is getting longer. Because before, you're right, we've seen years where Paul dominates east to west. Now, recent history, we start to see Paul dominates the East Coast. Well, why? When we go out west, we're playing a lot more golf courses, a lot more open bomber golf. Not that Paul isn't those things. Those just aren't Paul's strengths where he's the best. Once you get him to the Idlewilds, the Northwoods Blacks, the GMC, the pretty much all the East, Midwest, East, that side is where we see like Paul's season is always, Paul's not, what's going on? And then we get to the East Coast, and then end of the year, it's like, is Paul player of the year? I think that's a big storyline is the Pro Tour is making decisions that are in their favor, right? As far as we need more spectators, we need more interesting golf on camera, we need, more pristine courses, we need X, Y, and Z to fit a Pro Tour. And unfortunately for Paul's game, a lot of those things that line up kind of go away from his core strengths, which is a lot of like, he's a filthy scrambler. He has incredible touch on those dead straight, touchy lines. And in the old game, you could just rely on that. You wouldn't have to throw crazy big flex lines. You weren't required to throw these big spike hyzers. He has all of those, but that's not what he relies on. So that's why we're starting to see other players. Yes, the tour is definitely getting deeper. Don't hear me saying that it's not the tour getting deeper. That is definitely a big factor. But I think the course selection of the Pro Tour is not helping Paul's case. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, he has yet, even over these last few years, he has yet to have a bad season by anybody's standards.
Well, because I think as of right now, there's not too many courses on the East Coast that don't go this way, because like even if you make wooded courses longer, like Northwoods Black, New London, other courses like that, they're gonna play to Paul's strength. We get to Maple Hill, that's gonna play to Paul's strength.
Yeah.
Because the dude is he's underrated in pretty much, it's weird to say, but he's such an all-around player that he's underrated in pretty much every category. But one thing that I think people realize that he's head and shoulders above the field 9 times out of 10 is that frozen rope dead straight shot. Whether he throws it nowadays, he throws it like Undertaker, even Onyx, Buzz, like that type of shot where he just has incredible angle control out of his hand till it lands. We don't really see it needed until you're in the woods. Because in the open, you can use it.
It doesn't matter.
But you can everyone can just use a hyzer and get to the same spot.
Yeah.
So I think once that's being asked, that's also, I think, where you start to see Chris Dickerson. That's a similar player narrative that, he's falling off. How much is it talent? How much is it course?
Chris Dickerson's going to be in Europe for the first time.
First time ever leaving the country.
Yeah. Going to be very interesting to see how he does out there.
Yeah. So then Paul's rival, or not really anymore, because Ricky came out and said that Calvin's like his rival. So I don't know.
Well, Ricky's rivals whoever's number one in the world.
Yeah.
Well, now.
It's
So
him
himself right now. Yeah.
So it's himself.
Sure. If we go with, I don't trust any world rankings anymore. Because UDisc was my guy, and you can't put Ricky number one right now. Not this season.
So, yeah, not after the season that Calvin's having.
Yeah.
Like, they have him, second still? Mm-hmm. But Ricky hasn't been around this season as much.
He's what? We had to go back to Statmando head to head, but it's not close.
It's the ELO system. It's the recency play. We know why it is system. How it is.
So, at the Preserve, we saw that Calvin did end up choking, I believe, on many of his putts, his approach shots going OB, and going in that final round, that Ricky ended up coming out and beat a very dominant looking Cole Redolin. We've seen Calvin in majors as well and other tournaments, I think, this season, where like he's almost there, and then a super high pressure situation, he just hasn't been, like, he doesn't have the clutch gene. Yeah,
I disagree.
The strong disagree.
Yeah,
I don't.
What you're feeling is that he's always in contention.
Yeah.
He is in contention.
He gets caught in
like
that
a
narrative
clutch
because he's always in contention.
If you put yourself in contention every week, you're not going to win more than you lose. So it feels like he's losing constantly. It's because you're constantly seeing him in contention.
Yeah. Well, look at Vegas this year. He clutched up and beat and won that tournament down the stretch.
I think he's icy cold.
Jones.
Also, he had a horrible final round putting performance.
So you just think
it was second?
You just think it was third?
Pretty sure it was tied for second.
Was it tied for second?
At the Preserve?
Pretty
sure it was second.
Might have been tied.
Either way, he finished on podium.
Yeah,
with a 50% C1X and 0%.
Now I'll say this:
and he came on podium.
I don't think he's the clutchest disc golfer in the game, but I think that he is not somebody I would associate with nerves.
Now,
he hasn't won a major yet.
That's gonna say that's the narrative that Calvin's got like another year before that becomes a strong narrative.
Because Calvin is 27, I believe now. He has been on near the top of disc golf and very good for the last like 3 seasons. He's been like a top guy who has won. So that narrative will start to creep up on him. But you could say the same thing about Rick right now because he's on quite a drought.
Yeah, it's what 6 years.
Majors are hard to win. That's really what it comes down to, unless you're Paul.
Not if you're Isaac Robinson.
Or Isaac Robinson. But yeah, I think it's really hard not to fall into that narrative when it seems like he's on the lead card and you're watching him live every day lose a lot of times.
You have to watch him lose more than anyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But nobody else is doing that. So I think that's where it's difficult. Now that doesn't mean, his putting was bad that last round and there's something to be said about that. But yeah, I don't see him. I don't know. I'm willing to slap that label on Calvin. He's still, he's
no, I think the last round he still shot like a 9 under.
Yeah.
With awful putting. Like he's just playing on a level that when he's at his best, he is above the field. And right now he's at that level where if he plays good, he's still in the mix. If he plays bad is the only way he's down. But if he plays great, he wins.
It'll be interesting to see what he does at this event, just because last year he was there last year and didn't do amazingly. Yeah, he was like 7 back of the lead. So that'll be interesting to watch.
But when I think Calvin, I don't think clutch is not the word that I would use. Consistent, yes.
Clutch.
Consistent, putting yourself in contention is a thing. But
the clutch
what separates Paul from the rest of everyone is that he has a clutch gene where he turns it on and will sink deep.
The clutch narrative, though, the clutch narrative gets tied to people based on career highlights. That's the thing about the clutch narrative is that's the reason that people. You'll see it all the time in basketball. Certain players will get the clutch label against others because they have very iconic shots. But then if you look at the stats and you're like, well, this other guy also has similar fourth quarter game winning shot percentages and stuff like that. I think disc golf is similar. We think Paul is clutch because we think of 4 putts in his career that were super clutch. So immediately that pops into your head. But if you were to actually compare their final round performance and putts down the stretch, I can tell you this year who's leading in that. But over their career, I guarantee you it'd be a lot closer than you think it is. It just looks that way. The clutch narrative, it's not a statistic, right? It's a subjective thing that we say. You can apply statistics to clutchness based on things, but we don't ever do that. It's very much a eye test type.
Well, remember Jonesboro last year. Calvin clutched up, got himself to a playoff and
against Paul.
Playoff.
That's right. So that's what I'm saying is I think that the reason why it seems so easy to do that for Paul is because the guy has made some insane shots. We think immediately my brain goes to winning the playoff against Rick in 2014, the putt at USDGC, and then the putt at Worlds just this past time around. And that's 3 shots that pop into my head. And there's been more, but there's
also 3. With Paul, there was a period where he's. I don't want to call him streaky, but he can get on really hot streaks.
He used to track people down a lot too.
That was where the McBeast mode clutchness came from. Was if Paul could smell blood in the water, he could make a comeback happen. We don't really see that. But
you just can't. You just can't do that in today's field. That's the thing.
European Open.
There's too many good players.
It was he was literally 6 back of Rick.
Yeah.
And 9 holes in, you knew it was.
And there's the kicker is he only had to catch Rick really that year. Yeah. If you watch it back, this year. It's not I just got to catch that guy in the lead. You got to catch 5 guys. If one of them is going to play good.
A lot of Paul's clutch narrative, because Paul McBeth is a clutch player through and through, but a lot of his clutch narrative comes from Ricky collapsing. He was chasing down one guy that consistently collapsed to Paul. That's not happening in today's era. If you go back and watch, real talk, 2013 through 2018. You had to beat Paul or Rick. So if you're Paul and Rick, you just had to beat the other person. So if you're Paul and you're in Ricky's head, which he was from 2013 really through 2016, Paul was living rent-free in Ricky's head until Ricky got that first World in 2016, then all you got to do is take a few strokes on the guy through the first few holes. Boom. We saw it happen over and over. So Paul was chasing down Rick over and over and over. And that's when some of Paul's clutchest moments happen. Now, Paul is still clutch through and through, but that's why we see it so much, is he was chasing down one guy over and over and over.
If you are winning on the Pro Tour at all these days, most events, we do not see a lot of runaways. So most events, it may look simple, but you're going to see the guy who wins make many, many, many 30-footers, 40-footers that are extremely clutch.
And shots under pressure. That's where Calvin succeeds. Calvin shines, I think, less on the putting green, which is where we attribute clutchness, but getting himself in positions. Yeah. His throws are some of the clutchest that you'll ever see. Yeah. It's just he makes it look.
They're not flashy, right? Yeah.
There's something to be said about you don't have to hit 60-footers. Yeah. Right? That's a different type of clutch. Right?
Absolutely. So it's just a tough narrative.
Just to add on to the iconic moments from Paul McBeth's clutchness career. The man has 2 18 under rounds, and I would say everything going into the back 9 for both of those rounds you could consider clutch. with just the record he was chasing.
I guess. I mean, I think one of those tournaments did he not even win, or one of them, or only one.
You're thinking of Memorial. D-Glow, he hit like a 60-footer for 18 under. That was a clutch putt.
Yeah.
Waco, if you adjust the 18 to the modern day par, it was 15 under, which other people have shot.
Yeah.
So you are chasing a number at that point, but
yeah, I mean, you're right. Paul, one of the things he's done over his career is associated a lot of highlight rounds and shots of himself. That's why he is as big as he is. Of course, the accolades are there. I'm not going to say they're not.
Yeah.
But that's just how it is. Like there are so many. And that's the way that history works too. Like whenever a player has had a career for a long time and been dominant over that period of time, like right now, for example, Michael Jordan is put on a crazy pedestal for basketball because he came and went and he was dominant in his era. 20 years from now, Kevin Durant and LeBron and Kobe, these guys will all be looked at in an insane lens.
Kevin Durant?
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer.
I'm not saying it's the same as Michael
Y'all
Jordan.
sleeping on
But I'm just saying, like, there are guys that right now we just be like, yeah, they're legends, but we don't freak out about them. But we will.
People freak out about LeBron James.
I'm just saying.
I want to talk about someone who ain't got the clutch
you don't
gene.
freak out about Kevin Durant?
No, I don't freak out about Kevin Durant.
All right, I'm done trying to make that point. I'm done trying to make that point.
It's Dame time, baby.
I mean, Paul George is my goat.
Yeah, dude. I don't know what.
Have you seen that trend?
Yeah,
I don't know what people are doing.
Well,
That's like saying like
no, it's because Brandon Miller, the second pick.
Yeah,
said
but
it. Yeah.
now there's like a generation of kids that are being interviewed and they're like straight faced explaining why Paul George is their goat.
That's hilarious.
Like it all started from that interview, but now you have. I mean, it's the same kids that they associate Melo with LaMelo Ball over Carmelo Anthony. That's just sickening.
I'd like to hear their reasoning.
They don't have one.
Okay,
maybe we should have another show.
You can't have a reason for Paul George to go. There's no argument there.
Sad.
At least the LeBron, Kobe, MJ, you got facts. Paul George is just like
Bron's got stats, but
my goat.
Rings talk. That's all I'm gonna say. FPO, Kristen Tatar. Have y'all noticed how whenever we go from a U.S. event and then we go into a European event with Kristen in her career, that she always ends up losing by some margin?
I have not noticed.
Really?
I mean,
I feel like every time that
she didn't play. She didn't play in the European Open last year, so like,
Right.
I mean, I'd have to look back 3 years pre-COVID to even like pick that narrative up.
I can't remember.
It's in 2019.
There was another. It was the last time she took a break
Or
to go
2021, I guess.
back to Estonia, I think. That tournament, she ended up losing to.
Oh, the Estonian Open, was it that she lost? Didn't she lose the Estonian Open a couple years ago?
It was an event that was here. I'm saying when she loses the event before she goes back.
Oh, that's a thing?
And it looks like it's a pattern. I think it's it's happened once already this season.
Found the pattern.
I should probably have a record to show with that. But yeah, so y'all haven't noticed, I guess.
I have. The pattern I noticed is that she wins about every other week.
She wins pretty much every week. Yeah, I think with the 1 year, I think she went home right after Champions Cup last year, maybe.
Yeah,
I've heard someone talk about it, and I mean, there's a homesickness factor when you're going home to your kid and your partner that you're like you've been away from for a month, and like after this final round, I'm flying home. I mean, of course, that plays into someone's mental state. So. Yeah, I think I wouldn't surprise me if there was a pattern out there.
Yeah, I played a disc golf tournament the day I got married, and let me tell you, I did not play well that day. I guess it's a factor.
I played a disc golf tournament the day Trevor got married, and I think I won.
But
you did.
But the pattern is also
married more often.
All right.
But the pattern is also when she gets back, she's dominant. So looking forward to that part of it.
We'll see if but what happens when she's there?
Yeah, what's about the in-between stretch?
When she's there.
Stats?
No, she's good.
Where's our stat man?
It's Kristen.
Get it? Where's our stat man though?
I get it.
Stat man though.
It's actually how they created the name of the website.
Oh, nice.
It's
pretty cool. But do y'all see anyone in Europe being able to contend with Kristen? Obviously, I kind of can get your answer.
I mean, somewhat excited. We have Henna Blomroos and Evelina Solomon.
Those two will be the most interesting to watch.
They've been out of disc golf since April.
Yeah.
Who knows what they've been doing?
I mean,
if they figured out their putt in the last 2 months, watch out.
Because they're the X factors. Because if they can figure out how to putt, I mean, they are really good.
They're
really good.
Yeah. But Katrina Allen's over there, Missy Gannon,
there are
players over there that can compete if Kristen slips up. I can guarantee Kristen will come top 20 this event. because there's 21 in the field. So I got that one.
22.
Nice.
Ah!
That's a bold prediction.
Might come. Okay, she come top 25. Can we agree that?
Okay, top 25.
Yeah.
But I think I can pretty much guarantee a Kristen podium every week, and like you're not gonna look dumb.
Yep.
Be a pretty good bet.
You would have missed what, one this season?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's pretty embarrassing if you ask me.
Yeah.
But someone we haven't really talked about too much, Missy Gannon has had a extremely consistent season. In her last 7 events, 5 of them being Elite Series, she has finished 6th or better, which is absolutely ridiculous by anyone's standard. What about her game do you think allows her to perform that well?
she's a Matty O type character where she is pretty decent off the tee, keeps the disc in play enough, and is a well-rounded enough player to where like she's not going to be course to course. Like, will she play well or not? So I think that's why there's consistency there. But I think there's a lack of distance. There's a little bit of a lack on the putting green at times where you'll see her take a bad 3-putt. And I think that's why she's not winning. I really
Lack of disc variety?
Yeah, Thrasher off of about every other tee.
Thrashers can do anything you want.
But I think that, Missy Gannon is a good disc golfer. I think she's probably good for like a win a season. But I think, like not a player that is a super threat, because I think there's just enough gaps in her game that there's a reason, she's been like in the top 6 or whatever for this many events and not won.
My comparison is Nate Sexton. Not this year Nate Sexton, but historic Nate Sexton, where I think Missy Gannon knows her game. It's a safe game. She sticks to that game plan.
Yeah, she plays it on every course. Yeah.
She plays a very safe game. She sticks to her game plan. She stays within herself. She doesn't try to do something she's not capable of. Most of the time, that's good for like a top 5. Sometimes she'll sneak on the podium, and there'll come a weekend where that's good enough to win. That was Sexton's game plan for most of his career. He knew his game. He stuck to his forehands. He stuck to what worked. He kept it in the fairway. And sure enough, some weekends it was good enough to win. Every weekend it was pretty much good enough for a top 10. And you can make a really good career that way. I think that's what Missy Gannon's kind of doing out here. Is she's just like, I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. I'm going to just do what I'm good at consistently. And if that gets me a par on every hole and birdie a few, great. I'm just not going to push myself and try to do anything crazy. I'm happy just sticking to it. And eventually a win might fall in her lap. But I don't think she's really a player that I see like being really aggressive and chasing down a win. I think a win will just kind of come to her at some point.
Okay.
That's how I kind of perceive it.
And she's won at least Silver Series before. I don't think she has an Elite, but yeah, it can be done.
You're talking about this year?
No, not this year.
Okay, yeah.
Last. Does she have an Elite?
At least one,
I know she won, I believe, Music City last year. I might be wrong on that, but I know she's won at the silver level.
Did she win D-Glow, or was it Des Moines I'm thinking of? She won something.
Des Moines?
There was a stamp that came out about it.
You're right.
That's all I remember.
You're right. I remember now.
So is there an FBO player that this course will tailor to more than Kristen?
Oh. More than Kristen? No.
More than Kristen.
Because it doesn't seem like it requires a ton of distance from what I was looking at.
Here's what I'll say. I think there's a decent bit of gap hitting to where, sometimes Kristen's throws can get a little squirrely. Mm-hmm. She could there's a great chance she's outthrown by both Henna and Evelina at this course. But the putting is just mile of gap in between. So yeah,
because I would look to people who know how to do ground, like
Katrina Allen. The ground. If Katrina Allen is throwing as well as she was, last
Preserve?
at Preserve, throwing that well and can find the putt, then she would probably be the biggest threat in my mind. That's what I see.
Okay. Yeah. I think this tournament's going to come down to ground play. Personally, it looked like it did last year in the first round. So.
There's definitely a lot of
undulations
in a lot of slopes. If it gets slick with the rain, a lot of ground control. You're right.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and go into our bold predictions provided by Third Wave Coffee. Hunter, what can you tell us about Third Wave, man?
Yeah, so Third Wave Coffee is actually my brother's coffee shop, local here in Forest. They source, roast, all of that fun stuff, their own coffee. They're committed to ethical and sustainable sourcing for all of their coffee, and they have a bunch of single origin coffees in stock right now. Plus, they just released a few months ago the Bogey Bro blend, which we've been super stoked. Everyone who's been trying it seems to have been loving it, which is awesome. It was tasted and approved by myself, Trevor, and Connor. So it's perfect for people who are looking to dip your toes into a little specialty coffee game. Maybe you still like a little milk with your coffee or a little sugar. No shame. This coffee will handle that well. Or if you're just full on a specialty coffee fan, you'll also enjoy the notes from this as well. The tasting flavors, that is. And they are offering our listeners 20% off your order with code DISCGOLF, one word DISCGOLF. So head over to third-wave.coffee and pick something up today. Again, that's third-wave.coffee and use code DISCGOLF to get 20% off your order.
Sweet. What's your bold prediction?
I got a bold one, a mighty bold one.
Oh, I'm ready.
To be completely honest.
We're ready for this.
I think whoever, don't ask me why.
Kristen in the top.
Don't ask me to explain this. Whoever wins this tournament will win USDGC this year.
That is a very interesting.
Why?
I said not to ask me to explain it.
You can't just say that and then say,
Yeah, like was there any reasoning?
you've got to explain.
I played Mad Lib with
I was watching the course and it just felt right. That was it.
Interesting.
Revelation.
I was just feeling it.
Okay. All right. Fine. You're allowed to have a hunch on this show.
Yeah, that's a bold prediction.
That's
My bold prediction is really bold. I think that the entire MPO top 10 will be all Americans.
Oh,
Yeah.
dang on.
Wow.
No disrespect to the Europeans. I haven't been impressed with them while Paul's been over there.
No disrespect. I just am not impressed by any of you.
It's not. Let me change my statement. Nothing personal. Nothing
There you go.
personal.
That's fine.
Nothing
That works.
personal. I think we have I think my point is being made because this year we're bringing over it's not a super deep American field, but it is a very strong as far as we have many of our top players. I think somebody said we have like 8 of the top 10 in the UDisc ranking. So I think the entire top 10 will be Americans this year.
Should we have?
Biggest threats to that would be Jakub Semerad and Nicholas Antela for sure.
So I've got a question. Should we place a bet on Hunter's bold prediction? I feel like that's worthy of a bet.
I don't want to bet on him, man. I think he's right.
Heck yeah.
I think he's right.
Come on.
Dang.
I think the guy that
both
I picked to
together.
win this event is going to win USDGC. So
Same.
yeah.
I can't believe what I'm hearing on this show.
Well, I mean, you just heard 8 of the top 10 U.S. players are over there. So
Yeah.
pretty solid shot.
Yeah, we got decent odds.
All right. For our point standings, in the last couple of weeks, Trevor's been kind of blowing it, TBH.
Yeah, not really good for me.
So Hunter is in the lead at 65 points, and Trevor is sitting at a mere 61.
We have a major coming up next week. That
is true.
Very big.
Big sweeps.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and start.
Mixed sweeps, if you will.
We're going to go ahead and start with Trevor for our MPO picks.
So yeah, I'm going pretty classic here because I think this event's going to be pretty unpredictable. Throwing in something a little bit unpredictable, but not really. I'm sure you could see it coming. Third place, I'm going to go with Paul McBeth. That is my a little bit edgy pick. I don't know.
You wild child.
I just missed putting him in my top 3s, I guess. I don't know. I have no idea why I'm doing this. I just am. I have Calvin in second and then Ricky winning.
All right. So third place is our X factor because I've got Ricky winning.
Okay.
I've got Calvin in second. I felt good about both of those. Which means we both feel good about
It's hard not to pick those guys 1-2 right now. Like it's so hard.
But I'm going against your bold prediction here because I'm putting Nicholas Antela in third place. It kind of rode with my USDGC.
I like
gut check
Semerad
for
better
some
than
reason.
Antela.
Well, I saw his putting in that one clip. That was him, right? That we were tagged in that Brody said.
Oh,
Bro's
yeah,
hot
that
seat.
was him.
Yeah, so that scares me.
Good point.
That scares
Good point. The putting yips, yeah.
He 5-putted from 20 feet.
It was crazy.
The one that was back and forth.
Probably one of the
Yeah.
big, and he missed the basket by like 5 feet.
Yeah, so that one scared me. But Nicholas, again, I randomly had to
Makes sense for a USDGC.
I randomly was like, you know what? I feel like whoever plays good here is going to play at good USDGC. Don't ask me why again.
Okay. And then you.
But then I was just like, well, Nicholas played good at USDGC. 2 years ago or something.
Well, he didn't.
He lost in the
But you
playoff.
don't have him winning this event. Why don't
No,
you?
I'm in third.
Why don't
Because I don't
you
think he's going to win USDGC.
Do you think Rick's gonna win?
I think Rick's going to win USDGC.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think we think that every year.
I do. Well, he's due.
He's so due for that. Oh man. All right.
All right. So FPO.
Yeah, I'm going pretty chalky here, I think.
Shocker.
I'm going Henna Blomers in third. That's my wild.
I thought you were starting with first. I was like, yo.
Katrina Allen second, Kristen Tatar win.
I'm taking Katrina Allen in third, Missy Gannon in second, and Kristen Tatar in first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
we got some chances.
there's a
here.
little bit of switcheroos there, for sure.
Now, dark horse, I'm throwing the whole putting thing I just said out the window because I'm taking Jakub Semerad.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a pretty good pick.
Gonna redeem himself?
You and I, the dark horse picks were like in our lap because Semerad took second last year. My pick, Greg Barsby, took first last year. So
Trevor told me it was Greg Barsby, and I was like, I think I could throw a dart at this lineup,
Why do you
sort by
say
rating, throw a dart towards the top, and someone's going to beat
that.
Greg Bars.
Why do you say that?
I don't think Bars is going to have a good performance out there. I think the pressure of him wanting to repeat so bad is going to get to him.
Maybe.
But he's Norwegian, man. Like, he's got this.
That is a good point.
He's got.
I do think that
if you have the axe from last year, you get a 10.
Dude, that's what I was going to
I
mention.
do
That
think
trophy
the
is sick.
It is a battle axe.
And I thought you would have mentioned it and been like,
Well, I
"Man,
don't- I
I
that's
don't
a
think Trevor
trophy."
likes this trophy.
what?
How do you feel about the battle axe as a trophy, Trevor?
Well, it's not
Well,
a trophy. It's a battle axe. That's all I'll say about that.
I agree.
I still believe that
expect more.
objects like it looks cool. And
You
here's
know what?
It's a lot better than the
basket
tasty
with
wide
We're
open
gonna
one.
do. This is what we're going to do. The winner of the Battle for Bedford gets this desk.
There you go.
That's their trophy.
I'm just saying, like,
We're bringing it on a forklift.
That's sick.
We'll have them try to hoist it.
We'll have.
and I'll say this: at least a battle axe,
challenge.
at least a battle axe is like closer to a trophy than like a guitar, for example. So I'll give him that much credit. Well, as far as like it's like a metal forged item that is like ornate enough that it looks like a decoration.
I think you're going to
That
lose.
sounds like a
I think
trophy
you're
to
going to
me.
lose this one.
It sounds like a trophy. To
Oh,
me.
I know.
Not on the desk, but just like public opinion.
Absolutely, people love.
You're not
that.
winning
And
that.
I'm not. There
you
are
see him
there
pose?
are way worse trophies that need to be taken care of, but like it's not a trophy.
Like,
it's an
did you
axe.
see him pose on top of the tractor?
No, everyone saw that.
Yeah, I mean that's cool.
but the-
that's iconic.
The
Like, that was
emotion
just-
is what made that iconic, not the axe.
I mean,
I think that
it was a part of it.
I think
It was
that trophy
definitely
that
part of
Paul won at the Swedish Open, I think it was the Swedish Open, was the coolest trophy I've ever seen in disc golf, pretty much. And it's not that hard to do for people. It's really not.
What was
It's pretty hard if you're making that at home.
Yeah,
Man, that's
well,
a tough thing to get together.
Just saying.
All right.
It's a lot easier to dye a disc.
It is.
Maybe we should just hand out like a custom stamped foundation buzz for the Battle for Bedford.
You saw the trophy came in?
You were supposed to see that,
You're
man.
not supposed to see that. I was trying to keep that under wraps.
All right, guys. Thanks for being on the show. And thank you guys for tuning in. Get out and watch the PCS Open this weekend. It should be a good one. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.